What's going on, everybody? We're back to another acceptable casualties battle report. Today we're going to be doing roughly 400 points of Barbarossa. We got Germans against the Soviets. Back in a second to go over lists and deployment. So here we have it's about 300 points, maybe a little bit more of Soviets here. So down here I have the forward HQ with the gas transport. Over here is a standard rifle platoon, and then the support options are going to be a Maxim machine gun, 45 millimeter anti-tank gun, anti-tank rifle as well. So there's three choices for the supports. For artillery, I brought the it was the 82 millimeter mortar, medium mortars. For anti-air, I took the Quad Max on a gas. And then for my armor, I took 5 of the T-26s. I also elected to buy some foxholes and dug in positions for my guns and my troops. So yeah, this is roughly 300 points. The idea of this one was we're going to play like a special scenario, and you guys will hear about it in a second, so I didn't want to make the list too balanced. So we'll get to the German list right now. So here we have our 400 points of Germans. Down here we have the forward HQ, and he's going to have a Kübelwagen transport. Over here we have our standard infantry platoon for the Germans. So they have 7-man rifle teams, 3-man MG34 teams. The rifle teams are going to be equipped with anti-tank grenades as well. For their support choices out of the platoon, there's an MG34, and then we have the 80 millimeter mortar as well. Right there we have a forward artillery observer. He has a Kübelwagen, and there's also attached to him is 2 75 millimeter infantry guns that are going to be off table. Then we have for our recce, we got a 222. For our tanks, we got 3 of the Stugs, and then we also brought a Panzer III 3F in support. And then Vin also has a timed Stuka airstrike, and he's not going to tell me when that's coming in. So we'll be back in a second to kind of go over deployment and the scenario for this one. The setup's going to be for defense line, but we're going to be playing kind of like a custom game here. It's going to be called Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth. So we'll be back in a second to kind of go over deployment and then the rules for the game. All right, so we are back for deployment. Before we get into actual deployment, just kind of explain the scenario. So we're playing with the rules for defense line as far as deployment and everything goes. But the scenario we're playing Scorched Earth, and what the Soviets used to do for early war, they would, if they were going to lose a position or have to withdraw, what they would do is they would go out and they would just essentially just torch all their supplies that they weren't able to get out of there. Anything military or civilian that might be of use to the Germans, they would just kind of just torch it and leave the Germans absolutely nothing as they push deeper and deeper into Russia. So that's what we're going to kind of try to emulate here for this small skirmish. The idea is going to be, there are going to be 2 objectives. You're going to have the middle of these fields right here, and then you're going to have this HQ house here that has my forward HQ in it. So it's kind of like intelligence and things of that nature. So the plan is Vin's going to have till turn 6 to take this field here and secure the objective. If he secures the objective, obviously I'm going to pull a chit. If Vin hasn't pushed me off of that by turn 6, then what's going to end up happening is my guys, if I have anybody that's still contesting, they'll torch the fields, and then Vin will have to pull a chit for losing the objective. And then obviously when these fields get torched, we're going to put a bunch of smoke in there, and it's going to cause some visual issues as far as being able to see through for the firefight. So that'll happen over here. This is going to be turn 6. For turn 9, the same thing is going to happen here with the house. My guys will pull back out of the house if I still have control of it, and we'll set it ablaze as we begin to fall back a little bit further toward that back table edge over there. And if Vin's obviously able to capture it, then he'll just take the objective, and that'll be that. There'll be no back and forth as far as me taking an objective back and Vin pulling a shit. Like once Vin secures the objective, he has the objective as well as the house here too. Just to kind of make it a little bit more even as far as me burning it and then Vin not having a chance to take it back or anything like that. So that's what we're going to be doing here. 12 turn game as normal. So let's get into the deployment right now. Vin's going to be attacking from this table edge over here for the defense line scenario. Vin's allowed to have his recce and then 3 units to bring on the table. So Vin brought on his Panzer IIIF and then 2 rifle platoons are going to be over there. And this is kind of his setup over here. And then for me, I ended up having every unit that would have in defenses. So these guys in foxholes here, the 2 units in foxholes 8C right there, and then the 45 millimeter over here. And then I roll a 2d6 to see how many units I got on the table. I ended up rolling a 9. So I have everybody except for, well, I'll show you. everybody except for my platoon command, one rifle squad, and two T-26s. So we have everything up on this defense line over here. We have our mortars down here. We have a T-26 in ambush. We have another T-26 over there. Inside the house, we have our forward HQ on the back end, and then we have a Maxim machine gun out that window over there. Over here, we have a 45 millimeter in ambush. We have our rifle platoon there. Another T-26. Inside that house, we have our anti-tank rifle. In the back, we have our Gaz with the quad Maxim anti-air guns. He's in ambush, and then we have another rifle team over there. Before the game started, Vin was also able to roll a preliminary bombardment to kind of pin some units. So Vin randomly was able to pin the anti-tank rifle in the house, and then the 45 millimeter watching the road, which was kind of unfortunate. That was the one unit I didn't want Vin to get, but of course he ended up getting it. So that's what we're looking at right now as far as deployment goes. Vin's going to start off turn 1. He gets his reserves coming in turn 3. So he has 2 turns with this force to kind of try to push up the table and make the best of it, and then his boys start coming in. This is an infantry rifle division as well, so Vin does not get Panzer Marsch, if that's what you guys are wondering. And as far as battle ratings go, the Germans are going to have a battle rating of 30, and the Soviets have a battle rating of 24. But since I'm out recce'd right now because I didn't bring any recce in the list, I will have to pull it shit for my turn. So I'll be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn 1 for the Germans. This turn, just a little bit of positioning over here. Vin ended up doing with his rifle squads. He gave them both reserve move orders, so they're kind of hanging out. I think, Vin, you rolled what, like 11 orders? Yeah. Not, way more than you'd be able to use. Then with his 222, he pushed him up the road over here. When he got to this point, I popped my ambush with that T-26 that's along the house right there. First shot, I was able to observe him, and then I needed a 5, I think, to hit him with my AP shell. I ended up rolling a 4, so that was kind of unfortunate. Second one, I failed to observe, so Vin was able to kind of tuck around over here nicely and not really have to deal with anything. Then Vin moved up his Panzer IIIF to this point right here, and he tried to fire down and pin the infantry squad, but failed to do so on that. That's all that really happened here for the top of turn 1. We'll be back in a second for Soviets, bottom 1. So we are back for the bottom of turn number 1. Of course, I rolled 5 orders in total. I rolled 4 for my order dice, and then I rolled a 1 for my commander dice, the random command chaos. So I had 5 orders. So what I ended up doing was I called for stall, stall, stall. I pushed up my tanks. I ended up rolling 5. So I was able to activate all my tanks. I pushed them all up with the 2 moves. The final third attempt, I was actually able to roll a 6 and pin the Panzer III over there. For those of you who don't know, stall, stall, stall. You roll a d6. That's how many tanks that you can push up 2 full moves, and then they fire an HE round or machine gun fire to try to pin. But you have to go 2 full moves toward the enemy. So that's what I ended up doing with all my T-26s, and then we fired down here, and we were able to hit him. Then I really didn't have anything else to do. I tried to use my forward HQ over there to spot down here, but with the communication breakdown, I think is what it's called for the Soviets, I need 4s for comms tests, so I failed that. Then I had just a couple guys that I put in ambush. So I put this rifle squad here in ambush, and I put my 2 rifle teams over there. They're over there in ambush. At the end of the turn, Vin opted to try to take a risk here to kind of make his turn 2 a little bit better. So he took those 2 teams that were back here, did a reserve move order, pushed them up to that point right there. And when that ended up happening, I ended up firing downrange, and I was able to pin this unit with this rifle team. Then these guys over here, I failed to pin, but my second open fire order, I said I was going to shoot to kill. I ended up observing them and killing 4 guys out in the open over there. So Vin's assault right now seems like stunted a little bit, but he has 1 more turn to kind of weather the storm, and then he has his reserves to start piling it. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 2 for the Jerrys. So we are back for top 2 for the Germans. For this turn, actually went pretty decent for Vin. So what he ended up doing was that 3-man rifle team that was wounded over here, they weren't pinned. Vin was able to push them up to the fence line right there, and they were able to actually pin that rifle squad back over there, which is pretty nice. Then Vin took his 222 that was over there. He swung him back to this point, and then Vin tried to shoot to kill with his autocannon over there, but failed to observe the guys back there. I think he needed a 3 because it's a scout team. He ended up only getting a 2. And then at the end of the turn, Vin opted to pull it shit to unpin those units. He was able to unpin 2, and the chit Vin pulled was Confusion. Played it on this T26 down here. I rolled my motivation for it. I ended up rolling a 6, and then I failed my Beyond the Call of Duty test to see if I can really cause some havoc here for Vin, but unfortunately it really didn't work out that way. So we're coming back now to the bottom of turn 2 for the Reds. We might do stall again. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll be back in a second. Bottom turn 2 for the Soviets. So we are back for bottom of turn 2 for the Reds. It was a good turn, but it wasn't as good as it looks. So I ended up getting, what was it, 9 orders?
Yeah.
Or 11 orders, something. I had enough orders to do a whole lot of stuff. So my first order, tank number 20 right here, T26, I was able to fire an AP shell down, blow Vin's tank up. Of course, Vin pulled a number 1 chit. And when you have a 1 and you're playing against the Soviets in early war, that counts as a breakdown chit. So Vin ended up rolling in, immobilizing my T26 over here. He's not destroyed, just a little bit of gas, blew his transmission, so he's kind of sitting there in the middle of the crossroad. Good trade-off. Wasn't too upset with that one. Then with the rest of the guys over here, I put a couple guys in ambush. I like that T26 right there. This rifle team here, they fired down, and they were able to kill the 3-man squad over here. And then Vin pulled an ammo low chit out of the back. And lo and behold, my mortar team that was over here, Vin rolled a 5, which they're out of mortar ammo. So we just decided to play them. They're now just a 6-man, just like little rifle squad that's kind of hiding in the woods because I activated them later in the turn, just kind of moved them in there. So that's what happened with those guys, just a mortar team with some rifles, no more mortars.
I'm winning off the chits right now.
It's ridiculous, yeah. I mean, yeah, Vin's pulled 3 chits, and not one of them has taken any of his battle rating off at this point. Meanwhile, I've pulled 2, and let's just say that they haven't been as good as Vin's. So for the rest of the turn, I put the Maxim machine gun on ambush over here. Like I said, they're in ambush here. I also pulled a chit to unpin everybody that was over there. So the AT rifle, that rifle team, and the 45 are now all live and in the fight. So that's what happened here for bottom of turn 2. We'll be back in a second for top of turn 3 for the Germans. Hopefully Lady Luck will come swinging back my way. So we'll see how it goes. Finn also gets reserves coming in this turn coming up. So we'll be back in a flash. We are back for the top of turn 3. I don't even know what to say. So Vin was able to get 4 reserves on the table. He brought in his artillery forward observer. They're going to be over here down in the corner. Vin then rolled up his 2 guys up the street over here with these Stugs. They fired down, but failed to do anything to the T-26 over there. I think he failed to observe both times. Or no, failed to hit. Then this Stug here, Vin rolled up that hill onto the top. I was actually able to hit him once because I had that T-26 over there in ambush. I was able to pin Vin when he got to the top of the hill. Vin then also moved up his rifle squad to the fence line there. They're able to fire down, and they pinned that unit. I rolled a 1 on my cover save, so I lost a guy. They're down to 6, and they're also pinned over there. And then down here with the T-22, Vin continues to try to pepper these guys over here. Vin was able to...
7 went through.
Yeah, Vin had 7 shots between... He did an open fire order, tried to kill on both. 7 shots, ended up making it through, and I ended up making 7 saves. So these guys, they're hanging in pretty tight over there right now. That's kind of all that happened. Vin then pulled a chit to unpin the Stug on top of the hill, and... why would I expect anything less? If you guys can't tell, that is an air attack chit. So Vin has pulled 4 chits. Vin has not had 1 battle rating point drop down right now, and there's a potential plane coming in next turn. So, yeah.
It's getting ugly.
Whew. I'm going to have to come up with something big here. So, yeah, we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 3. I'm just going to have to kill Vin to a man. I think that's what's going to have to happen here because I don't think I'm going to break him on battle rating. Yeah, so we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for bottom of turn 3 for the Reds. A pretty decent turn. Nothing too fantastic, but nothing bad either. So I ended up getting enough orders to kind of activate everybody. So right off the bat, what I ended up doing was the mobilized T-26. I fired down at both of these Stugs with a, shoot to kill for each one. First one, Vin ended up... I ended up hitting him, but the shell bounced. Vin passes morale, and then passed the Beyond the Call of Duty test on top of it. Returned fire downrange, but failed to do anything to the 2 tanks that were down there. With my second shot from the open fire, I was actually able to pop this Stug here at this distance. I think strength of my gun was a 3. I needed like a 9, I guess, to do anything. I ended up rolling a 10, so I blew him up over here. That opened up T-26 right here, tank number 20. I ended up pushing him around the edge right here to try to fire down and take out Vin's armored car, but that didn't really work out too well. But, you know, we did rattle his nerves a little bit. Back up over here, we gave a reserve move order to the mortarless mortar team that's sitting over here right now. Inside the hut, we just kept our Maxim on ambush. Nothing else really happened over here on this side of the table. This rifle team down here, I tried to fire down and pin Vin twice. First attempt failed. Second attempt, I got it off, but Vin passed his cover save. And then with the T-26 here, I fired 2 shots at Vin. I think 1 hit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 hit. Obviously, at this range, I failed to pen, and then Vin ended up passing his morale test without a real issue there. So that's kind of all that happened here. But, you know, 2 out of Vin's 4 tanks are now off the table. Which makes me feel pretty good at this point. But, you know, he still has artillery and stuff coming in as that Stuka, as well as the potential Stuka that Vin has coming in off that airstrike. Yeah. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 4, see how this thing plays out. So we are back for top of turn 4. For this one, Vin ended up getting 2 reserves in, but had enough of orders to activate everybody. As well as Vin got a BF-109. And, so Vin brought that in right off the bat. He ended up dropping his 2 medium bombs that came with the plane. Scatter landed right on top of the house here. I had my quad max in the back to fire AA, so I got essentially 4 dice to try to get 1-6. Biffed on every single one of them. So the bombs got through. Vin rolled a 1 and a 3 for the damage for the bomb, so he's just able to pin the guys in here, but I rolled a 1 on my cover save, killed 1, then I rolled really bad on my morale, so they ended up breaking the 2-man anti-tank rifle team, so I had to pull a chip for that. Then Vin ended up trying to drop artillery bombardment right here. It only scattered 3 inches. Vin then rolled 4 dice. He rolled 2 1s, 2 2s, and he failed to do any kind of pinning or damage to any of the units that were hit in range. Vin then pushed up his machine gun teams. That's his reserves right there. So he brought up a MG-34 team, another MG-34 team that I did pop an ambush on with my Maxim machine gun, but we play no pre-measurement, so Vin was actually 31.5 inches. So I was all my bullets were landing right around here, trying to hit these guys that were there. Vin also uses command Stug here to try to fire 2 shots down at the T-26 right there and failed to do so. But the Stug that was on top of the hill was actually able to fire down. He had some better luck and he blew up my T-26 that was down there. So there was a little bit of damage done over here. Vin also tried to use his armored car to fire at the T-26. That did not work out well, so hopefully I can help Vin out next turn and give him one less model to move. But the way things are looking right now, Vin still has that plane kind of flying around up there. He has, 3 machine gun passes, I think, that you can still do after you drop your 2 bombs. And then he also has that Ju-87 timed airstrike that's going to be coming in soon. So that might not be that fun either. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 4 for the Reds. Gotta get Vin to start pulling some chits that don't have any kind of letters on them. We're just looking for numbers. We'll see if we can do something about that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're not ones. We'll be back in a flash. So we are back for bottom of turn 4 for the Soviets, and things go good, then they go bad. It's kind of what happened here. So this turn, I had enough of orders to kind of do whatever I wanted. So I ended up putting the gas back in ambush fire because I know we're going to need it again. Down here with this rifle team, I tried to pin Vin twice. Vin only had to make 1 save, and he did. So those guys they're A-okay over there. Down here with the T-26 that's immobilized, I tried to take out that Stug again. We're just kind of in a shootout right now. I failed to hit him twice on that. You guys can see that blown up T-26. Well, guess what happened? We fired down. We blew up Vin's T-22 with our first shot. Pretty excited. Vin ended up pulling a number 1 chit, which is a breakdown chit. Played it on this T-26. Vin rolled a 6, and that's the end of the show for this T-26. So I had to pull a chit, and guess what I pulled? It was a number. So Yeah, Vince pulled 6 chits, and only one of them is affected as battle rating. The other 5 have all kind of just blew up in my face. For the rest of the turn here, I had that mortar team that was back there. We kind of ran them up, and they're pushed up to this point right here, and that's kind of all we try to do. We had the maximum machine gun team there. Tried to open fire to these guys because there's a window on the side of the house right there. Tried to fire down here, and it was 30.5 inches. So they were just out of range as well. So just killing me. Nothing going right now. We're going back for the top of turn 5. Vin's going to really have to start making a push right now. He still has 1 plane coming in, a Ju-87 still yet to come in. 2 active tanks on the table. It's getting a little hairy right here, but Vin's boys are holding on for the Fuhrer. I have no idea how you've only pulled 1 chit.
I was going to say, I think the chits are holding on for the Fuhrer.
Yeah,
fucking ass.
this is ridiculous. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 5 for the Jerrys, and we'll just let the shenanigans continue. So we are back for the top of turn 5 for the Germans. This was just this is a lot of shenanigans right here. So Vin had the BF 109 come in on a strafe run, tried to pin these guys with some machine gun fire. Vin needed 6s to hit.
Yeah. No.
They need 4. That's where whatever he needed to pin me, it was like 4s or something like that. Because he was doing, he wasn't trying to kill me. I ended up passing both of my tests to keep these guys in the fight over here. Then right on top of it, Vin had the Ju-87 drop all their bombs right here. Vin had 3 pins and 1 direct hit. Vin failed to pin any of the units with the pin markers. He had terrible dice. I think I had to make 1 save.
Yeah.
And then with the direct hits, Vin had like 7 dice needing a 3 up. A bunch of them got through. I lost 2 guys from this rifle team here, but they are not pinned. They ended up staying in the fight. Down over here, Vin ended up pushing up the command stug to fire his last shot. It was an HE round into that rifle team over there, as well as everything you see over here. Vin was trying to get those guys to break, because as you guys remember, on the top of turn 6, if I have anybody still contesting this objective, we torch it. Vin was able to kill 2 guys. He couldn't kill the 3rd guy to force a morale test at any point over there through like tons of fire. I was making a couple saves here and there. Vin couldn't really get anybody in. I think it was like 5 or 6 units fired in there, HE rounds, machine guns, and they held. So that was pretty huge. So this is probably gonna get set ablaze unless Vin gets some crazy beyond the Call of Duty shit next turn and just totally jacks up my little party I got going on over there. So that's what happened on this side of the table. Over here, Vin pushed up both of these guys to kind of make a play, I think, up the side of the table. And with the artillery observer down here, Vin tried to lob a artillery shell down there, but failed his comms test. So a lot of the Germans are starting to push up. It looks like that first objective is going to be off the table for Vin. That's probably going to be set ablaze, but there's a lot of guys pushing up, and Vin has a boatload of battle rating left. So it's going to be a tall order over here. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 5 for the Reds. I got some reserves coming in. Maybe I can get some more T-26s on here to kind of, stunt Vin's advance. So we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for bottom of turn 5. As you guys can see, the Molotov cocktail was thrown into the middle of the fields, which lit some of the crops on fire at the end of the turn. But we'll take it from the top right here. So I ended up rolling enough orders to kind of activate everybody except for 1 unit. So down here with this immobilized T-26 in the middle of the crossroads, he turned his turret, was able to fire and hit the stug on the side, and I was able to blow him up at range, which was a pretty huge shot down there. With the 45 that's over there, I was able to fire down range. Not able to do anything though on the stug. I think I needed 5s to hit him. I think I rolled like a 2 and a 3 or something along those lines. Back up over here with this rifle team, tried to pin Vin, failed on both attempts for that. With the Gaz in the back, the quad max, I put him back in ambush to deal with that strafing run that plane's going to come back and end up doing. I put the Maxim machine gun in ambush over here. Left these guys in ambush right here. I moved up all my reserves. I ended up getting on this table as well, I forgot to mention. I rolled up the 2 T-26s. They just did 2 orders, so they pushed up 20 inches each. And then I still got my rifle and platoon command on the back table edge over there, not really doing anything. The mortar team I pushed up to here, tried to get cheeky and shoot Vin's spotters that are kind of just sitting down here in the bottom corner. What did I need to observe you? I needed like a 4, I think, and I rolled a 3, so that didn't pan out. Vin got some, some rifle squads right here up in the middle, so this could get ugly pretty quick. We'll see how that kind of plays out. There's a lot of firepower, small arms firepower on the side of the table, but that's all that happened here for the bottom of turn 5. Vin did have a pull of shit for, the fields getting burned. We'll start pushing these guys back a little bit more coming up, but yeah, we're looking at top of turn 6 for the Jerrys. Armor's depleted, but man, they got a lot of firepower for small arms sitting out here. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn 6. A lot of shooting and not a lot happening here. So Vin ended up bringing in the plane again. What did you do? You tried to fire. Oh, this is the best thing that happened for Vin. So Vin brought the VF-109 down here with a strafing run that was on the platoon command that I have there. Of course, the gas truck failed to suppress again. Even getting like the extra roll with the having the quad max of machine guns. I've rolled 12 dice. I've yet to roll 6. But Vin came in and just absolutely shredded the command team. He rolled pretty good on his dice for observing, and then the hits, and just killed those guys outright. So I had to pull a shit for that. Then down here, between these two rifle teams, Vin tried 4 times to observe these guys. He was able to observe once, and then with all of his shooting dice, he only got 1 hit, and I ended up making the save. So they're looking pretty right now over here. Vin also is out of ammo with this Stug right here, so he just has machine gun fire. So between these guys, those guys, and Vin moved up his rifle team. They continued to fire down the both of those rifle teams, only failing to observe them completely, and then doing 1 casualty to the rifle team that are behind the sandbags right there. So that's kind of what happened here for this turn. Vin also dropped an artillery bombardment. Once again, failed to get any pins, and then failed to do any wounds off of. He had 1 direct hit. So not a lot happening this turn for Vin. Just a lot of fire getting thrown down range, but not a lot of casualties. He's going to have to start really pushing up ahead a little bit more if he wants to take that building by the end of turn 9. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. I don't know if I'm able to even break him at this point. So we'll be back in a flash for bottom of turn 6 for the Reds. See if I can get those T-26 up the table and make some mincemeat of some of this infantry is kind of sitting out in the open. So we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for bottom of turn 6. Pretty good turn here for me. I only had 6 orders, but kind of made them count the best I could. So one of my orders, I took that rifle team that was sitting out here just looking pretty. Pushed him into the woods because I know that plane got 1 more strafe run left. With the Maxim, I pushed up around the side of the house over there. Fired down, was able to pin and do a casualty on Vin over there along the... he moved up the infantry squad that was behind the smoke over there. With this rifle squad here, they also fired down and were able to kill enough of guys to force Vin to do a morale test because he was under 50%, and then they ended up breaking. Vin rolled like a 1, so they ended up coming off the field. Over here with the 45, I fired down. I was able to immobilize Vin. I rolled double 1s on the Stug, so Vin got immobilized, and then he ended up getting pinned. So the first time I hit him to immobilize him, and then Vin rolled, I think, would you roll on your morale like a 1 or something like that? 2, whatever it was. Yeah, Vin's immobilized and he's pinned right now based off the 2 rolls from that 45. So that was pretty huge over there. With the 2 T-26s you see here, I did a stall order, pushed them up. They tried to fire down and pin that team up there, and then these guys down here. I actually did get it off, and then Vin rolled a 6 for the cover save to keep them in the fight, which was pretty huge on his part. And then with the rifle team here, I fired down. I was actually able to pin Vin's command team, but failed to pin this rifle team here. So a lot of pinning and taking some units out here. Vin got some infantry on the back end of the table. I think it's going to turn more of a shootout. I don't know if the chances of Vin getting that building are looking very good right now. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 7 for the Germans. So we are back for top of turn 7 for this one, right? Yeah, so top of turn 7. So for this one, Vin had enough orders to pretty much activate everybody. So for this turn, a lot of what happened was you had a ton of machine gun fire between these guys here. Yeah, the MG34 on the tripod over there. They were firing down range, and they were able to kill 3 guys out of this team and pin them over here. Up on this side, between a bunch of the rifle units that are over here, Vin was able to fire down and break the guys that were pinned over there that kind of held the line for a while. Vin also attempted to do a tactical coordination. There's his forward HQ to try to unpin the platoon command over here. That ended up failing, and that's all that happened there. And then Vin pulled the chit and elected to unpin at the end of the turn these guys here and these guys here. That's all that really happened. I think Vin, you dropped a... What else did you do? I think you fired, yes, there was some machine gun fire that went into these guys here that killed 1 guy, but they still stayed active. And then there was also an artillery bombardment that really didn't do that much. I think Vin tried to drop it down here, and it wild scattered off the edge of the table. But that's all that happened here for the top of turn 7. A lot of machine gun fire and some pinning. So we'll be back in a flash, kind of see how this plays out. Bottom 7 for the Reds. We are back for bottom of turn 7 for the Reds. Pretty decent turn. I only got 7 or 6 orders this turn, but the 45 mil back there was able to fire 2 shots down, and I was able to actually blow up the Stug over here, which is pretty big. The Quad Max that's over in the back over there fired down on these 2 guys. I was able to observe there, but I needed like 6s to do any kind of wounds, and then Vin ended up... I had 1 to go through. Vin ended up rolling a 6 for a cover save, so they kept them alive right there. Down here between the 3 tanks, in no particular order, fired down. I needed 5s to pin these guys. I had like 4 attempts to do it, and then nothing really panned out. They didn't get pinned at all. And that's kind of all my moves that happened here this turn. I had that rifle squad that was there. I pulled them out, and I moved them behind here. They only got 4 guys, and they're not going to be very effective sitting there where they are. So we'll be back in a second to start the top of turn 8. For the Jerrys, let's see what happens. There's some squishy targets sitting out there. We'll see how this plays out. So we are back here for the top of turn 8, and yeah, a lot of moving forward here. Vin tried to drop a couple bombardments, but that's really kind of what happened. So Vin pushed up a lot of his rifle and machine gun teams, as you can see. There was some mortar and artillery fire that got dropped over here but failed to do any damage, and then there was 1 here that scattered back to right around here for Vin's artillery bombardment. Failed to do any pinning or damage. I ended up passing a couple saves, and then Vin failed a couple pinning checks with some of those guys. So there's no armor left on the table. It's just kind of a lot of shooting over here. Vin tried to move these guys up from this position. I had the Maxim on ambush, and they ended up coming into range. I was able to kill 2 guys and pin the unit over here. And then these guys over here were able to push up from this position and kind of just get set up, I assume, for an assault next turn. We'll see how that plays out. But that's kind of all that happened right here. Yeah, like I said, just kind of moving up and making their push. So we'll be back in a second for the bottom of turn 8. Probably going to set that house on fire pretty soon, so we'll be back in a flash. So we are back for the bottom of turn 8. So this turn went pretty good for us over here. So we ended up rolling up with our T-36. We had I think we had enough orders to activate everybody. So we rolled up with our T-26 over here. We were able to machine gun and kill the platoon command team here. They ended up breaking. I think they had like 2 guys left there for some machine gun fire, so they ended up breaking. The Maxim from that window fired and then moved back, and they were actually able to break the team that was sitting over here, the remainder of that rifle platoon, so they ended up breaking, which was pretty big. The other T-26, I swung back around over here. We were able to kill 1 guy from this machine gun team, but they ended up staying active on the table. With the Quad Maxim back there, we fired down range. We failed to observe anybody over here. What else did we try to do? Okay, with the stationary tank here, and the 45, we tried to fire down and pin these guys in the back corner here. The tank was in range, but the 45 was out by a ½ inch, pre-measuring. Like, that's what we do here, so you don't get to do it. And then back over here with the command team, pulled them out of the house, moved them back here, because turn 9, this thing ends up getting burned to the ground, so that's going to happen here at the end. These guys ended up staying in ambush. These guys are still pinned, but they're in the middle of the woods, so they can't really be contacted by anybody at this point. We ended up putting that rifle team in ambush as well, just in case the plane comes in, we'll be able to fire at them. And we give a reserve move over to these guys back here behind the house. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now as we begin to fall back from our positions. Vin got a bunch of machine gun teams, mortars and arty. Still some stuff going on. So we'll see what happens here. Top of turn 9. He's going to have to pull a chit because this house is about to be set in the flames. We'll be back in a flash. So we are back for top of turn 9. I forgot to mention, with one of Vin's casualties last turn, he ended up pulling an airplane chit. Again, I know, it's freaking ridiculous. And he ended up getting the airplane on with the BF 109. But with Vin's chit pull for the house right here, would you pull?
A 4.
Vin pulled a 4, and that was actually enough to break the Germans. I was down to a 2 battle rating with my Soviets, so the Reds end up holding on. Burning the house with the intelligence in it was enough to break the morale of the Germans. They realized there was nothing left to fight for, so they're going to start pulling back the forces, and we're going to get this line reinforced here on the Eastern Front. So really good game. We'll be back in a second to kind of go over the end of game recap and how this one played out. This was a pretty serious seesaw battle, so we'll be back in a second to kind of go over it. Alright, so we're back for the endgame recap. I don't even know what to say with this one. Just to put this into perspective, because you guys couldn't really see how the counters were going off. Vin's, what was it, your 6 of your first 7?
7 of my first 8.
7 of Vin's first 8 chits that he pulled were...
No, it was 6 out of 7.
Sorry, 6 out of 7. Regardless, whatever it was. Vin was either pulling breakdown chits for my tanks, airstrikes, confusion, like no numbers at all. So Vin started off in really good shape as far as chit pulls go. I had a battle rating of 24. I got knocked down to 7, I think, before Vin pulled his second chit that was actually like a numerical value. And then if you guys want to look, well, I'll just show you guys the chits before we kind of put it out here. So this pile was mine. You see a 5, 4, a couple 3s, and then 2 2s are in there. Vin ended up pulling a couple 3 5s, 2 4s, and a mix of 3s and 2s. So Vin was kind of loaded up once the chits started actually like not going his way. And that's what kind of swung this one. We'll go over, I guess, like the plan of attacks right now, kind of how it played out. So,
do you want to show them the sweet chits?
Oh yeah, and then these are Vin's. Stupidity.
I'm sorry for losing, guys.
Yeah, the 2 1s are breakdowns. You got an ammo low, confusion, 2 air attack. It was just ridiculous. So the way this one kind of played out was the beginning of the mission. I ended up rolling really good for my units that I can actually set up in my defense. So I had like 12 of my units on the table, which kind of set me up really well as far as solidifying this defense over here. The idea was to kind of lock down this little corner here. I only had 1 unit contesting the fields right there with the idea of I'd be able to push up another unit if I needed to get in there. But it was kind of just leave this open area here and kind of just turn it into a major shootout between those 2 fences and leave the gas back there to support against any anti-air, and then hopefully use the tanks and that 45 millimeter to kind of support fire over there and then kind of control this road going down here. And the thought was once those fields got set ablaze, I would start pulling my guys back to kind of defend this a little bit better, maybe kind of form like a U with those units, kind of break them around over here, and then whatever I had left on this side, kind of form a wall and see if I could hold Vin off for a couple turns as things played out. And it worked out really well. I think the big thing for me early on was the T-26s and the 45. Being able to either pin or blow up those Stugs and that Panzer III early on. Like, that was huge, because without the tanks being able to really push up, I didn't feel like Vin had enough infantry, or they didn't have enough of pop in there to deal with the T-26s, because I only lost, two of them. I lost 2 of them. Yeah. But, I still had, this guy right here was a superstar. This immobile one was just like a turret in the middle of the table. He did so much work. And then those 2 guys that came off reserve, they came at the right time and got in position to kind of slow down the infantry advance. And it worked out really, really well as far as slowing things down. I know, Vin, what were you thinking? I know you mentioned that me having such a good role for the defensive setup initially kind of put the damper on what you were planning to do.
Yeah, my plan was almost set a diversion. Like I was to set like most of my guys on the top, but I was going to take all of my tanks and just completely ignore
all the fields
and then just go straight for the
house.
The house, so like you would have had nowhere to bring anybody to, so it would have just been like essentially you stuck in the open.
Oh, yeah. If you would have been able to if you had an armor push up the road over here, at that point in the game, I didn't have any real assets on this side of the table.
But when I saw everything that was on the table, I was like, it's going to be kind of like think of something on the fly. So I tried evening it out a little bit and like giving them a little bit of tank support and instantly right off the bat. So the one thing that you guys didn't really see, how hot Joe's dice were against the tanks. So I think what like turn. Granted, you were hearing about the chits, but
Yeah,
Joe, you were
yeah.
rolling like nines and tens on the
Yeah,
damage
yeah,
chart
I
and
was
popping
hitting,
things
yeah,
off
I
the
was
dice.
blowing up those tanks. There was a lot of stuff too where I had a lot of pin tests, and Vin ended up passing a lot of them. And I mean, you got
Oh
to think
yeah,
too, like this did get set up, a set of blaze, turn 6, but Vin was really one shot away, or like one decent
yeah.
round of dice from breaking those guys off the table. I mean, he had like 5 or 6 opportunities to break that small rifle team that was over there. If they would have broke, Vin would have taken this objective, and I would have had to pull it shit. And like I said, I was hovering at around 7 battle rating from turn like 4 or 5 on. Like I was hurting, and it just nothing was getting broken off the table for a while, and it kind of really saved me at the end over there. And then like I said,
I
once
couldn't break that.
yeah,
That was
this
such a perfect spot. Right
yeah,
there.
this worked out pretty well over here as far as holding this side of the line. And like I said, I mean, getting this objective, once you lost all those tanks and then you lost those rifle teams over here, I mean, this was like a pipe dream. Like, that probably wasn't going to end up happening
Yeah.
as far as it. But yeah, so that's kind of how the game went. We had a lot of fun with this one. This was actually really good. And just kind of mess around scenario. We'll probably do another Scorched Earth scenario again, and maybe mess around with it a little bit more. I don't know, like Vin, what do you think as far as balance goes? Do you think you need maybe another extra turn for the objectives to get in
I
to
wouldn't
place?
change anything.
You think it worked out okay?
Yeah, it was literally just both of us were having extremely hot
Yeah,
on one side of another. Like your dice were super hot and my chip pulling was super hot.
yeah. I guess it did. And those planes, man, dude. I've never seen anybody get
Two plane chits.
2 plane shits, and then Vin, like I said, Vin passed his second plane shit. So realistically, between if you count the Ju-87, I would have had 3 passes of planes coming through here.
Oh yeah.
And that's not good.
No, that would have.
Yeah, if this would have went one more turn, like I said, I would have broke. If you didn't pull the game breaking shit on that house, you had that BF 109 coming in, and it wouldn't have went well. So, so yeah.
Yes.
So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. If you guys haven't noticed yet, we did set up that Patreon thing, and it's not giving us money. It's setting up stuff for reviews of items that you guys want to see come through, and then we kind of raffle it off afterwards. So go check it out. I'm gonna leave the link at the bottom of the description, as well as the Facebook page. So if you guys just want to look into it, go ahead. You can get in for like $1 a month, and you have a chance to win like $20, $30 kits. Just depends if your number gets pulled or not. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys later.